Hey everybody, Mike White here. How are you? Good to have you back. This is a really good time for me. I really enjoy this time of the year as we're winding the year down, and we're getting to see people who have met or exceeded their goals already for this year, and those who are working to achieve them from a standpoint of looking into the future. It really is a good time to be a coach and watch, the movement that people have made. And that begins with what it is that we're going to talk about now, because it is customary that in October I do this with my clients and we start to take a look at, things, where we are and where we're going. So this is going to be, there's a lot of slides, and I do apologize for the fact that there's going to be a lot of slides, and there is a lot of content on each slide, but it was really hard to bullet point this because a few of you have told me that you go back through the material and you re-listen, or you want to download the PowerPoint, or the speaking notes, etc. And so I'm trying to come to that mix that makes everybody happy. So as most people who look at PowerPoint presentations will warn you, that sometimes too much content is distracting. In this particular case, it's up there because I want you to make, if you're taking notes, just make your bullet points on your notes and know that the content is here. And for any of you who have already not received it and would like a copy, you can email me, and I'll remind you later on how to reach me out to me. You can get a copy of Business Planning for the Mortgage Professional. That'll take you through this step by step. So 2012, we're getting in, we're already into the last quarter, and what I want you to start looking at and what you should be doing is take a look and see where your projections of this year come into where you thought they were going to be, because we have less than 90 days before we hit 2013, and as I've advised you before, paying attention to the fact that the last 2 weeks of this year are going to be very short because Christmas and New Year's fall on a Tuesday. So what I want you to start doing, and the purpose of this particular call, is to take a look. Where are we? For some of us, depending on the company that you work for, we're probably about a month or so away before 2012 is closed to us about bringing in any new business. Now, I know that varies from place to place, but let's just say realistically, with all the days off that are going to be coming, we're going to be hard-pressed, even in the best of locations, to get a lot closed after the middle of the end of November, going into December. So thing number one is 2012 is almost over. Where are we? Quick assessment. And what I want you to do is think about, as we look ahead, I want everybody to get into the understanding of more relational versus transactional marketplace. Now, I know that's pretty tough to deal with all these refinances still continuing on, but trust me, a bigger and bigger percentage of the business is going to become purchase-oriented, and while it may not overcome as a percentage, you should be noticing that your purchase transactions are on the rise. Because even with the pressure to refinance property, okay, we've got to look at this and understand that we pay attention to all of the possibilities that are in front of us. It's not always the best idea for the customer to do what they thought was best for them, because, and let's be honest, sometimes they don't know all of what is possible. Now, when you get people coming to you, we always run into this challenge that some people always determine value by price alone. And that is true to some very small extent, but what you'll find out, a larger percentage of the population really want the ability to make an informed choice and understand that what they're doing affects their entire financial future. And it's not just about the single particular cost of a loan. It's how does this particular program fit over the long term, because this is, again, part of an overall financial strategy. There are a lot of different components that come into what we pay and why. It's not just about what your lowest rate is. Sometimes it's about payment. Sometimes it's about term. The reality of this is as a professional, we have to be in a position to understand that we have to have the entire conversation. Now, today, refinancing loans is still going to be a big part of everybody's business. And I understand that, and I'm not telling you not to do them. But what I am suggesting that you do is make sure that you're asking a very important question. And that question is this your forever home? Because if you're not asking whether or not this is your forever home, then a refinance may seem logical short term. But if those people are refinancing to save money now, and in 2 or 3 years are going to be moving into a bigger house or a larger home or even a smaller home, wouldn't the thought process be the fact that maybe before home prices go up, compounded by interest rates going up, that now may be the time to make that move? And even if that person is planning on trading down, the difference between what the interest rates might be then and now may offset considerably the amount of cost. Because here's the other part, is that person who is trading down may have a lot of things on their mind about what to do. And a simple question like, have they fully funded their retirement goals? Because again, a lot of people make that mistake of saying, well, I'm selling this one house, I'm buying the next house, and I move the equity from one to the other. Well, remember, you've got right now, according to the tax code, and it is right now, the one-time exclusion of $250,000 for an individual and $500,000 for a married couple on the sale and the increase on a housing sale. Well, instead of taking all that money and putting it down or paying cash for that next home, what about a structured retirement? What about taking that money and putting into their retirement program and giving it a chance to compound over the years? And it becomes a forced savings because with that mortgage, you know they're going to make the mortgage payments. So even if you put them in a 10-year loan or a 15-year loan or an 8-year loan or whatever it may be, taking that money and lump sum investing it now into a retirement vehicle and fully funding them may be the way that we have to go. So understand, asking the question doesn't hurt your situation. Do you see this as your forever home? If the answer is no, there may be more questions that you need to have and a bigger discussion. Because when you have this housing price and this housing market and you have this interest rate environment, these may be two things that we don't ever see again. So part of your 2013 business plan needs to include what I like to call success strategies that keep you in front of opportunities. Because how many times you convert a refinance into a listing or into a list and a buy situation, even better, is going to signal to the market that, you know, you're about understanding the situation and providing solutions to your customers. And certainly, that'll result in opportunities to your referral partners. Think about this for a second. How many times would you have to talk to one of your refinances, come to the conclusion that listing and selling is a much better idea, and going on to buy another house where you're going to turn a refinance into a list and buy situation, and walk to one of your realtor referral partners and hand them a listing and a purchase? What kind of an impact do you think that has? And again, it can only be done if it's part of our mindset, if it's part of what we do. So what we have to do is look at 2013 and say goals. We have to look at them. And you can't begin a journey, okay, without two things. Two things are very important on any time you're going to start something. It's where are you now and where do you want to go? Once we know that, then you can figure it out. Now, it's really important. We're going to discuss some things here, and I'm asking you, in fact, maybe I'm even begging you all to be brutally honest when it comes to putting together these numbers. Because loan officers have a really bad history with loan officer math. You know, what we think we do versus what we actually do. Now, I understand at this particular point in time, we haven't closed out 2012 yet. We've got a pretty good idea of what's going to happen. We've got a pretty good idea over the next 30 or 45 days what actually is going to get closed within a few transactions and a few dollars. We can be reasonably good at making that assessment. And oh, by the way, we can always alter the numbers and adjust them higher or lower. But we can get the crux of a really good business plan together now. So what I want you to do is, I want you to get started by updating your records. And here are some simple questions that you really want to start looking toward. Understand, where does my business come from and who is sending it to me? Let's not be delusional. The numbers here are extremely important. Some of us have referral partners that we think send us a lot more business than they really do. Or who do send us a lot of business, but a lot of it doesn't close. Getting referrals is not necessarily the same as getting closed business. So that's number one. Number two, am I getting what I thought I was going to get? Are the people that I thought that were going to send me business, are they sending me business? And are they sending me the amount of business that I thought that they would? Now, we should be doing this all along. This time of the year shouldn't be the only time that we do this. You should, every quarter, be reviewing all your referral partners and all the deals that they have referred you to see if it's in line with what your projections were. For those of you who haven't done that in the past, make 2013 the year you start that. Because if Rachel Realtor is your referral partner and you've dedicated time, energy, and assets to that relationship, and you think Rachel is sending you 12 deals a year, and you wait until October of next year to find out that through October she's only sent you 2, that's a heck of a thing to try to fix. But if you update your records quarterly and know, hey, I was supposed to have gotten 3 deals in the first quarter from Rachel Realtor and I didn't get any, or I only got 1, then it's time to have the conversation to find out what you can do to help the situation. Is it because their business is slow? Maybe you can help. Are they referring somebody else? If you don't do the math and if you don't check, you'll never know. The other thing that I'm sure is going to happen is there'll be some surprises. If you check your business plan year to year, there'll be surprises, both good and bad. Some people you thought were going to send you a little bit of business have sent you a lot. Some people that you thought were going to send you a lot of business have sent you a little. And yet there may be people on your results that you never, ever thought about before the year started. Who are the new people? Who are the new referral sources? The new areas of business that I'm getting that I didn't even think about when I wrote this business plan. So updating the records is critically important, and scheduling yourself to review them even more so. Now remember the referral triangle, okay? Remember the leverage that comes from realtors and builders on one side, other professionals on the other side, and the database and consumer direct marketing. We have talked about this in the past, and it deserves being brought up again here. Again, for those of you who are in the business less than 5 years or who have not maintained an interactive database for the last 5 years, remember the basic conversation of the referral triangle. And for those of you who haven't read the referral triangle ebook, email me and I will send it to you. For those of you who already have it, you may want to reread it. But the power of leverage says that if we're planning on closing, and let's just pick an easy number, and I'll say 6. We're planning on closing 6 loans a month. It can be any number, but I use 6 to make it easy. that 2 of those referrals should be coming from our realtor and builders, 2 of those referrals should be coming from other professionals, and 2 of those referrals should be coming from our database. And if we aren't seeing those ratios, and again, this is for people in the business less than 5 years, or for those who don't have mature interactive databases, this should be equal. If I'm closing 6 loans a month right now and I'm getting 4 from realtors and builders, and 1 from my database and 1 from the other professionals, and we know there's a lot of loans being left on the table that our other professionals on our database or our consumer direct marketing can give us. And those are the areas to work on first. Now, for those of us who are in the business more than 5 years and have a more interactive database, you will understand that realtors and builders and other professionals, those numbers will remain static largely. So that in your 6 triangle, 2 from the realtors, 2 from other professionals, 2 from your database, those numbers, those 2 2s will remain the same with the exception of the database. Over time, the database numbers will grow simply because of the size of your database, to where eventually you can have a database that's applying 70, 80, 90% of your total business just by the pure growth and marketing of your database. Now, why is this important? Think about it. If I was getting 2 deals a month from my realtors and builders and 2 from my other professionals is 4, and my database started to grow to be 70 or 80 or 90% of my business, well, think about that. I could be doing 20 or 30 loans a month and having 16 to 25 of those loans coming from my database. How impressive is that? Your database takes very minimal additional effort for every person you add to it. Very minimal. Each new relationship takes time, but the database doesn't take much time to cultivate and maintain that, because largely you're doing that in various groups and very few personal connections. Balance. You know, many people understand the term, but they don't take the time to look at the broad spectrum of originators and compare numbers. The 3 areas, the realtor builder, the other professionals, and the consumer direct, they're 3 completely different areas, but they need to be brought together in balance, and you need to leverage them. Because again, by leveraging one side against the other 2 sides, it always keeps you in control of where the leads are going and who they're going to, because they're always going through you. When done properly, you're going to have an endless supply of complementary synergies. You're going to have people in there who are benefiting you every day of every week of every year, to the point where the triangle literally feeds and grows itself from itself. Because anytime somebody out who's part of the triangle brings somebody new in, they get absorbed into the system. Now, the triangle helps us see the true balance. And it's not just the short-term or month-to-month, but the long-term referral balance. And that's why I'm saying you really need to track every single call and every contact to determine where these people came from. Because if you don't track it and you don't know, it's hard to know that any of your projections or any of your efforts are truly going in the right direction. And for those of you who are at 5 and 6 and 7 and now 10 loans a month, and some of you are going there, some of you have gone past there, which, by the way, is, you know, exciting as anything. Understand, it only gets better, because if you stay in front, those people are going to your database. Those people will receive the value from that database, and they will continue to refer you. When I tell you that it is easier to run your business and close 15 to 20 loans a month than it was when you were closing 3 to 5 loans a month, you're going to think I'm nuts. But let me tell you from people who have made that transition, they will tell you it's absolutely true. Because what happens is the efficiencies that you develop, the time that you don't waste working with people who don't want to work with you, the time that you waste chasing people who don't want to provide documentation or live up to the expectations, all that time disappears and you get to spend the time working with the people who really want to work with you. And that is really what this is about. Those 10 to 15 loans a month that you can do by yourself comfortably. And oh yes, if you want to grow the business larger, we can certainly do that. It may take some help, but help is readily available. You need to look at your personal assessment of your referral sources. You need to look at your triangle and pay attention. Because if any side of your triangle is growing disproportionately, you're only beating yourself out of opportunities. Now, it doesn't take a lot of time and energy to do this. Once a month, paying attention, updating your records as to who's referred you what, and just plugging them into the triangle to see how they're balanced gives you all the heads up you're ever going to need. And from a prospecting side, all you ever have to do is remember that you spend 1 full hour a day of focused attention once a week on each side of the triangle. We've all had these discussions before. If we stay in balance, if we focus a minimum of that 1 hour specifically on each side of the triangle, the rest of it's going to take care of itself. Because by now, you people are all in position, you already are all, nobody's on this call is new. Nobody on this particular call doesn't have an amount of expertise in this area. This is an expert's call. There's nobody on here that hasn't been down the road and understands what it's like to do a loan. The point that we're trying to make here is the focus, not throwing the prospecting under the bus, not giving up on a weak side of the triangle because it takes a directed and concerted effort. The reality of it is it'll be well worth it. Now, we have worked on these concepts, and the reason that we do, we don't wait till the first of the year to business plan. I know that's when a lot of people do it. They wait for January. The reason I like to talk about this now is so that we have time, because we have the rest of this calendar year to look at our business plan for 2013, look where we were in 2012, and incorporate into our lives what we need to do. Because here's the thing. Am I going to need a new tool? Am I going to have to learn a new software? Am I going to bring on an assistant? Am I going to bring on a partner? Am I going to train a junior LO? Whatever it is that you're planning on doing for 2013, wouldn't you like on January 2nd to hit the ground running, to have it all laid out in front of you so all you had to do was execute? Now is the time to look at what's been working for you and what you'd like to incorporate. For those of you who are out on the West Coast with me at Sales Mastery, you're going to remember that there were a lot of things that were brought up at that event, some of which I'm sure you want to incorporate into your business. How do we implement? And the answer is it starts with the plan. What are we going to do? Where does it fit in? How do we want it to work? How am I going to train myself and others around me to incorporate this new way? And that's why we start this now. Because if you need help from me, or you need help from someone else, or if you need to hire somebody, a combination of all those things, isn't it nice that we have the time now? Because I will tell you, for those of you who are in this and have been in loan originations, it's real nice to have a really good beginning of the year. You have a good January. I have very rarely ever seen anybody have a good January and February and have a bad year. I've seen some loan officers have abysmal Januaries and Februarys and spend the rest of the year trying to make up for it. But I have really, I can't even search my mind to remember a single time where somebody I know had a really good January and February and their year completely fell apart. It generally doesn't work that way. Getting ready and getting done before the year starts, so that we're executing on day one, not thinking about what we're supposed to be doing. Now, I want to briefly go back over some things that we've talked about in the past, and I just want to reiterate them because they are this important. And there are certain silly little laws, and I know that you might think that they are, but please bear with me. It's the way I've always remembered how to do things, and I call them the law of 8 and 6. So let me give you the law of 8. Each name that you put in your database is worth a minimum of $8. In other words, if you have a name, address, phone number, and email contact information, there's a list company out there that'll pay you a minimum of $8 for it. Isn't that amazing? Information has value, current information even more so. Never invest in anything that won't provide an 8-to-1 return. In other words, when you plan your year out, plan your numbers before you make the investment so that it's yielding you at least an 8-to-1 return. Far too many loan officers go to make an investment. I'm going to do this advertising. I'm going to do this piece of marketing. I'm going to go do this. And then they say, and if I get one transaction, it pays for itself. Well, that may be all well and good, but what about the times you don't get one transaction? Why would you do anything to break even? How is that hardly worth it? I dedicated time, assets, and energy into a direction, and I broke even. Well, that's not very exciting. In this country, we like to win. I want to succeed. I want to invest $1, and I want to get $8 back. I don't think any of you will have a problem with that. Hey, invest $1, get back 8. That's a pretty good deal. The other part is you need to focus most of your energy on 8 key relationships. Those 8 key people, and I don't care who they are. They could be realtors, they could be financial planners, they could be accountants, they could be attorneys. Focus yourself. Most of your time and energy should be focused on those key 8 relationships. Yes, you can have second and even third tier people. We've talked about this in the past. I call it my starting team. In baseball, if we leave the pitching staff out of this, you've got 8 positional players. But you've also got some guys on the bench. You've also got an entire minor league system. Now, you may have 8 players on the field in baseball, excluding the pitcher, and all of them may or may not be all-stars. If they're all all-stars, then that's great. And then all the secondary people will be either on your bench people or they'll be in your minor leagues. But if you don't have an all-star at each position, then those bench players and those other surrounding players are the people that you're constantly working on to bring new talent into the game. You always want to have new blood coming in. You always want to generate new relationships. But when it comes to the hard work, when it comes to investing in those relationships, think about those 8 people that are truly your best sources. Take a good look at them. Are they over-allocated? In other words, are all 8 people realtors? Are all 8 people attorneys? You'd like to see that you had some balance in those key relationships. Obviously, you could have more, but I tell you what, when you start adding to that list, you can't have really great relationships and a lot of focus on a lot of people. So think in terms of your first string, second string, third string, or your starters, your bench, and your minor leagues. You always want to be cultivating. You always want to move people in. Maybe you call it your A, B, and C people, but it's important. And last but not least, you have to keep educating yourself. You've got to read 8 books a year. For those of you who don't have the ability to read, then get books on tape and put them in your car. We know you're driving around from appointment to appointments. And yes, I know some of the time that you're driving around, you use that time to sit on your cell phone and make some calls. What if we just changed the practice and turned off the cell phone, turned off the radio, and had a book on tape? It gives you, a month and a half to go through a book, either to read it or to listen to it. That's not a lot of time. For those of you who have heard me do this before, if you'd like to start a book club, we could put a book club together before the end of the year. We only need 12 people. Okay? I'll be happy to join the book club. And how does the book club work? It's easy. In the week between Christmas and New Year's, we each go out and we buy a book. And then we each determine ourselves our own color highlighter. And then at the first of the year, we have a phone call, and we get together, and we make the determination. We draw by lot each number. Somebody will be number 1, somebody will be number 2, all the way through number 12. When you finish reading your book, and you have your number, if you're number 2, you send your book to number 3, 3 sends his book to 4, and so on. That person now gets the book and highlights that book in their color marker. If you've highlighted a passage that they felt was important, then they can put a little dot next to the highlighted so that their color says that I agree with this passage being important. As the year goes by, you'll get to read 11 other books other than the one you selected, and you'll get your book back. And then you'll get to reread your book, and it will be highlighted by 11 other people. Talk about impactful. I'm not saying we have to do it. I'm just suggesting it could be done. You may be able to set one of these up in your own office. And if you're having trouble set one up, let me know, and I can pull some of my clients together, and we can get you involved in a group. Not a problem. The law of 6. Well, 1 in 6 people need your services today. 1 in 6 people are either thinking about moving or thinking about refinancing or thinking about a plan to do one or the other. 1 in 6 people need your services today. And in some parts of the country, it's probably even more than that. It takes a minimum of 6 contacts to make an impression, whether it be phone call, live, email, snail mail. How many impressions? Each person has the ability to refer 6 people to you in the next 6 years. Everybody you know and everybody that's in your group has the ability to send you 1 person every year. And if you don't ask for that person, you're not going to get it, likely. And last but not least, the average person is going to need your services 6 times in their lifetime. They're either going to refinance, need a second mortgage, they're going to sell their house, they're going to move, they're going to retire. Are you prepared to have a system in place that deals with all of this? And the answer is, if it's not brought to your attention and you don't plan for it, it's not likely to happen. Now, this is just important brain food, because I want you thinking about action. I want you thinking about these things and what you can do quickly, effectively, efficiently, to understand all these opportunities. Again, the difference between those of you closing 5 loans a month and 15 loans a month is not anywhere near as big as you think it is. That gap is so huge in the amount of volume and the amount of income. But that gap is so small when it comes to the differentiation between what you do. And I like to put it in these terms. I don't know if all of you are familiar with golf, but we'll just use golf as the example. Professional golfers go out and play 72 holes of golf in most golf tournaments. They play 4 rounds of golf. And many times, at the end of 72 holes, The difference between winning the golf tournament and being second is only one stroke. The difference in the prize money can be 2 or 3 times different. I win the tournament, I win $1 million, $2 million for winning the tournament. The guy finishes second, and gets $500,000. There's nothing wrong with making $500,000 for second. But the benefits of that one stroke for winning. Look at the Olympics. Look at any of the races. And you will see they have the 100-meter sprint. And the difference between the person who gets the gold medal and the person who gets the bronze medal is 1,000th of a second. And the person who finishes 8th and gets no medal whatsoever is not even tenths of it. It's hundredths of seconds, maybe tenths of a second. And to the person who didn't even make the Olympic team, they only may be ½ a second slower than the person who won the gold medal. Look at the difference between winning the gold medal and being somebody who didn't even make his country's Olympic team. Can be as little as ½ a second over 100 yards. That's what this is. That's the difference between 5 and 15 or more. So what do we have to do? Well, we have to identify the pillars of business. Now, pillars refer to the concepts of identifying where your business comes from. There are 3 pillars here. They represent the 3 sides of the triangle. Clearly, I look for 5 areas. Now, why do I say that? Well, it's one simple day of the week. One for Monday, one for Tuesday, one for Wednesday, one for Thursday, one for Friday. Some we duplicate. You could have one pillar. Your realtor business may take 2 days. You might spend 3 days a week on your realtor builder pillar. You may spend 1 day a week on your database and 1 day a week on your other professionals. But understand, if we've got 5 days a week and 3 sides of the triangle, we have to figure out specifically what we're going to do in that area and suggest it to ourselves the day and the time that we're going to do that. Because then we're not thinking about what we're supposed to do. We are doing what we're supposed to do. And that is the difference between 5 and 15. I want a specific setup for each pillar. You need to have your list of actionable activities. You've got to, again, have your schedule focused for that hour, okay? Because if we can't focus and prospect for a minimum of an hour, really, I start new people out expecting them to prospect 5 or 6 hours. People who have been in the business a while, I expect them to do 2 hours. You guys are already established and have a lot of this under control and a certain amount of discipline. But even today, being focused on each area of business a minimum of 1 hour a day is also often too much. Because I have loan officers even in my private coaching, and I'm sure some of us on this call are people who sit there, and some days, they may be few and far between, but some days I bet you they don't prospect even just 1 hour. The day goes entirely away. Now, some of the things that you're going to do may require more attention than an hour, and some of them may be more than once a week, and I assume that that's true. But my goal is to get you focused on a minimum of 5 different areas of business because, again, diversification is the key to avoiding the loan roller coaster. You know, where we close 2 loans 1 month and 8 the next, 1 loan the next month and 6 the next, 10 loans 1 month and none the next. That's brutal. It's not the way to live your life. It's not the way to be an originator. You know, I talk about things, and I use the word consistency a lot. And I tell people consistency is currency. On the same token, consistency generates consistency. If you're consistent in what you do, your results will be consistent. If you're tired of being in the roller coaster pattern, All you need to do is look at your schedule and see that you're not being consistent, because if you were, your results would be consistent. So scheduling activities. My theory is if I keep you proactive and in scheduled mode, it takes less time to live your life than being reactive. And since studies have shown that being proactive is 8 to 12 times more effective than being reactive, just imagine how much more work you're going to get done if instead of responding to every phone call, to every situation, to every stimuli, by allowing yourself time, work time, focus time, where the phone is off, where there's no email, where all you're doing is the job, the work that you are focused on, even if that was only 1 or 2 hours a day, you could get more accomplished. I hear this all the time. Loan officers and managers all tell me, yeah, I went into the work early. I go in at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I get more done at between 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning than I do all day with all the Really? So why would you have to go in at 6? Can you not close your door? Will your people not respect your time? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, having to go in early or stay late so that you can get your work done. Turn off the phone. Close your door. Do the job. So what's your schedule? If you're not looking at this on a regular basis and saying, what does your day look like? What does your week look like? What does your year look like? And as a result, what does your life look like? There's no way to get control over your life if you can't get a control over your day. The life is a way bigger thing. The year is a way bigger thing. A week is a pretty large thing. You got to get control of the day, and that starts out by getting control of 1 hour. Start with getting in control of 1 hour. Now, it's important that we go through this plan as honestly as we can. Remember, getting real numbers or not being committed to this process will certainly lead to results that are less than desired. You've got to be committed to the truth. You've got to be committed to the reality. I can't help you, and you can't help you if we're not honest about where we are and where we want to go. And that's the goal of this call. I fully expect each and every one of you to work on their business plan. I would appreciate if each and every one of you would email me that business plan. And in turn, I will be happy to arrange a time where you and I will discuss personally that business plan and work on it and look at it, make sure it's viable. Because after all, what's the purpose of these calls? What's the purpose of having a business coach if we can't get to the point where we are improving ourselves? If we're not getting better at our job, if we're not doing more in less time, if we're not making more money, if we're not closing more transactions, or if I'm making the same money and I'm closing the same number of transactions, working a 30-hour work week, if all of that is not happening, why would we do this? This is not a theoretical conversation. This is a factual plan on how we get to where we're going. And I want that for all of you. I would love for the fact that each and every one of you had a bad month and closed 15 loans. Yep, bad month. Only closed 15 loans. Almost sounds silly to leave your mouth. You should say it to yourself. See how silly it sounds. But imagine that. Imagine that there are people, some that I work with, some in your own company, who would say that 15 loans is a bad month. Not bad for a low number. Imagine that. Many things can happen by chance, but I'm telling you this, most success is not by accident. If you think that doing the same thing is going to get you a better result, you're probably going to be wrong. If you don't think that understanding and committing and measuring what your activities are and doing better or making adjustments, if you don't think that that's what it takes to get better, then you're likely going to continue to stay wherever it is that you are. And by most accounts, the people on this call I would consider to be successful loan originators. I don't think any of you are failures. But how much would your life be different at whatever that next level is? What is that next level for you? What does 2013 need to be for you to consider it to be successful? That's what I want. That's what you need. Because if you commit to it, I'll commit to working with you to get there. Because if you want to improve your chances of succeeding, now is the time to create the plan. You need a map. I don't want it guessing. The easiest way to get from point A to point B is to know where you're starting and know where you need to go. You can figure it out from there. Why walk if you can run? Why run if you can bike? Why bike if you can ride? Why ride if you can fly? Because the fastest way to get there is best unless there's a reason to go slower. And right now, for the next few weeks of this year, I want you to sit down and carve out some time for yourself so that you can see where you are and at what rate of speed you're going and seeing what your options are. Because if we have your options, we can implement a lot more effectively. Now remember, a business isn't our life. It's only here to support our lives. You're never going to be able to create or replace time. You can't. The time that you spend, you've spent it. It never comes back. Now you can manage it. And you can try to set yourself up so that you're doing the things when you're supposed to be doing them. To share all the things that you're doing with the people that you want, and understanding the reason I go to work every day is for the other stuff. Now, I'm not going to tell you what that life plan needs to be. That's not my job, and it's certainly not my field of expertise. But I'm telling you what, you can't plan your life if you don't know where you're coming from. And again, if you're working 8 hours a day, and you're trading 8 hours away from your friends, your family, your loved ones, and you're trading that time so that you can make money, so that you can afford the things and provide the opportunities to your friends and your family and your children and your grandchildren, if that's what you're doing it for, I want you to be most effective that you can be. And then when you got that big pile of money in the bank, and when you're working 30 to 35 hours a week, then you can sit there and say, now I've got options. There are other things that I can do. There are more things in life that I want. Because the good news is you figured out how to pay for it. And that's always a great thing. Imagine that. You yourself can do more for yourself than the government ever could just by taking the time. Because if you don't come up with your plan for you, somebody else is going to come up with your plan for you, and you may not like it. So I want to finish with this statement. I will be successful in 2013 if I need every one of you to answer this question. What does successful in 2013 mean? If I had a magic wand that would make you successful, and you had to ask for that wish, what would you wish for? Because the reality of it is, well, I can't grant the wish. I can work with you on the plan that will yield that result. And that I am very sure and confident in. I've got a lot of experience working with a lot of different types of people in all kinds of different markets, all varying degrees of what they consider to be successful. What's successful for you? And what does your plan look like? Because without this, we're just guessing. Our next call, scheduled for November 13th at 1 o'clock. Guys, if you got any questions or comments, any success stories you'd like to share, we'd love to hear them. If you don't have a copy of Business Planning for the Mortgage Professional, or you want another copy of the Referral Triangle, or any of the information, all you have to do is email us and ask. For those of you who come up with your business plans, if you need help, you need to let me know. If you need special attention, we will arrange a private phone call. It's not going to cost you any more money. It's part of the thing that you get for being part of this program. I want you to succeed beyond your wildest dreams, but I can't do that. So do me a favor. Get started, and if you need help, let me know. That ends our call. Thank you for your time, and we'll talk to you again next month. Bye-bye.